Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another powerful edition of Collective Conversations, where real conversations create real impact. Today, we're excited to bring you a guest whose journey represents dedication, perseverance, and excellence at every level of the basketball game. From high school to junior college success to collegiate competition and professional basketball, now helping student athletes navigate recruiting, express, explore opportunities across the country. He has seen the game in every angle. Today, we're sitting down with Blue Chip Global Zone, Isaiah Francis. Thank you for being here.
So thank you for having me.
Right, and then my daughter's here as well, so she's here for some, to gain some knowledge as well. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I'm from Beckley, West Virginia, of course. I went to Crescent Elementary, Park Middle School, Greater Beckley, Woodrow, and then I ended up going to college in New Mexico Military Institute, Interstate College in Oklahoma, and then I finished up my career at Kentucky Christian and Midway University in Kentucky.
And we got to thank your teammate going to Kentucky Christian.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, Brooke going to Kentucky Christian is a good deal. So you've been, definitely a few places. Right. Tell me a little bit about your journey. So your journey to getting here, from athlete, collegiate pro athlete to mentor. Tell me a little bit about that.
So really, I'll just say every stop I've made, I done made some great relationships. I made some great friends, some great connections, so each stop I've learned something different. So now I just feel like I'm compatible to be able to be in any environment and not be able to conform or anything like that. To just be able to adapt and just be able to help and influence as much as possible.
A little bit like biggest lesson you learned from high school.
Really just your body language and your attitude. You really never know who's watching. That's just the main thing, because that's what a lot of people pick up. That's what a lot of coaches pick up. They watch you early, so you just got to watch how you maneuver when you're outside. When you're out in public, when you're on the court. So that's just the main thing I'd say: the attitude and body language.
I actually appreciate you over the years. But one of the things I would say though, when you say that, but you never really said anything. You know what I mean? As far as, how people talk.
Right.
I mean, you might have talked to players, but I'm not that close, but definitely never really hearing anything. So you would imagine, somebody's body language, how focused on somebody would be on, especially a coach, per se, would be on that. Is that some of the challenges you kind of face as far as that?
Yeah, for sure. Because sometimes, like, as an athlete, you might be too passionate sometimes, or some people might misread that and think, oh, he's cocky or he has a bad attitude. But really, you're passionate and you care about it. Sometimes you let your emotions get the best of you.
Right. I mean, and tell me a little bit about BlueChips. Tell me a little bit about.
So BlueChips, we really just we help kids get recruited. We put them in the right places to get exposure and the spotlight. We have tons of college coaches who reach out to us and ask us about prospects. So we trying to just kind of use it as a bridge to connect the colleges with the players and stuff like that, help them get to the next level.
Which, I mean, I think is very vital in this day and age, because you just never know where you need some reputable people representing.
For sure.
Especially with the NIL and things of that nature. Tell me a little bit about that, the NIL.
So the NIL is crazy. Like, the money now is so crazy, where some of these athletes in college are getting six digits, 7 digits, and that's
right.
Opportunity. They can change the whole generation of their family. So if you really just buckle down and you grind for 4 to 5 years and just work hard, you can change your whole family's life just off of sports.
Right.
So I really think that's a big time addition that they made to the college.
So that's where a place like BlueChips, right, will come in, right?
Sure.
Come in to kind of help guide you.
For sure. We can also help you guide, give you mentorship, things of that nature, how to maneuver with the colleges and just overall just being an athlete and a basketball player.
Right. And I think, like you said, now I hadn't heard of BlueChips, but I knew that it had to be going toward these, type of programs because of the NIL and all the exposure. I never forget, we had a long time ago, we had it was like a celebrity type basketball game type thing against some guys from New York. And it was a guy from Marshall. He had just graduated, and he got recruited. He said off his own TikTok clips. Absolutely. They kept sending to the coach, and then that's how he ended up playing there for 4 years. And he was from Houston. he was from way, across country. So I always remember that. But now I know, a lot of times, I mean, it's you need something like that, reputable places to, come up with things as well. So landing there, tell me a little bit about that.
So my former AAU coach, Coach News, Ronnie Newsom from Fairmont, he was real locked in with my manager, Scott Stroud from Tyler County. So they've been, collaborating with AAU and post grad, and he kind of recommended me to Coach Stroud, and then Coach Stroud reached out. We chopped it up for about 2 hours, and we just had some of the same ideas of just wanting West Virginia athletes to get recruited more and just giving them the spotlight and the recognition they deserve. Because sometimes West Virginia athletes, they get overlooked, and it's just really all about who you know and being at the right place at the right time. So just being able to help that, and whenever I was an athlete, I went through the same thing, so I know how to help these kids, get looked and everything like that.
Right. I talked to you prior to us, doing this, and like I said, my daughter's here too. But one of the things I want to, kind of switch over to is, your relationship more or less like basketball wise with your dad. I think that's one of the things, that we spoke about. I can't imagine, everywhere we went, that's all we heard about was Isaiah in a good way. But nowadays it's like, if you support your kid, to the fullest, that's a bad thing. But then on the flip side of that, if you don't support them or come see them, then it's bad too. I mean, so, to me, I was, super impressed with it. I always, admired them because I just, like I said, for that to me, any parent, it doesn't matter to be male or female, any parent, really supporting a kid, I love that. And tell me about, because to me, you can do no wrong on the court as far as, there wasn't anything you couldn't do. How much confidence did you build from, your father, from a little kid all the way up?
So my dad, he was basically my hero. So he had a big influence on my life ever since I was little, be able to pick up a ball 3 or 4 years old. He's always been there. He's invested a lot of time with me in the gym with me late nights, taking me to camps, taking me to college visits, just giving me basketball knowledge, taking me to games. So he just always kept me around the game of basketball. So I'm always thankful for that. And then, sometimes whenever you're young, you think your parents are a little bit too hard on you. But as I'm a father and I have a son, I see he just wanted the best for me. So he just pushed me, but I was kind of too young to kind of understand that.
Right.
But he just wanted the best for me, and I always, now that I'm older, I really respect that, and I'm thankful for that because it really shaped my life, and and I'm always forever thankful for that.
Yeah, and I think, like you said before, I think you speaking on that is a big thing because you have a lot of parents now that's still involved. Now this is not NIL, but I mean, even though you can do it here in West Virginia now too, but this is more on the transfer rule, which will change and opening to July. It will change a lot. Only freshmen and sophomore will be allowed to do. Well, I mean, they still can, but without penalty, will be able to do that. So, now you see a lot of this, right? You see a lot of jockeying to move different places and things like. Which, like I said, I mean, I've been asked before when she played, drove and stuff like that, but it wasn't anything like a bad thing. I don't feel it's bad if that's what you're trying to do. But I do believe it puts an immense amount of pressure. Even now, once July happens, freshman and sophomore year, you locked in. Now we gauge in potential, and also we gauge in can you really produce at that level. And I think it's going to be, and I hope it goes well. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's going to be a lot of pressure on kids to produce. And plus how things are. It's other things you got going on as well. So that's not the only thing. That's basketball. Tell me a little bit about that as far as with you. Was it always just basketball?
No, so really growing up, I really loved baseball. That was really my main sport. I like baseball. I play AAU baseball a lot. My family is really kind of profound in baseball. My uncle, he played for the Pirates. My granddaddy played for the Farm League Pirates. My dad
really? Okay.
Played baseball. So baseball is really in my blood, but then I kind of just shifted to basketball and stuff like that. So that's really just where I felt the love for basketball.
You miss about?
I really miss football. I wish I would have kept playing football. I like playing wide out and safety and DB. So I was really all around, but basketball my main love though for sure.
So when you say that, you got any questions?
Yeah, I did have
Okay,
one.
go ahead.
How did being in college absolutely shape you to the person you are today?
Honestly, I would just say having a strong mentality, because in college it'll make or break you. When you're a freshman coming in, those first 2 weeks of workouts, they're crazy. Like, they just trying to break you mentally. But if you can get through that, you can get through the season. Cause you're gonna have ups and downs, because it's different between high school and college. Like, physically, the game is faster, the coaching, the systems and stuff like that to play. So really just staying down mentally, just locking in and not getting discouraged, because it's a long season in college. But if you can get through your freshman year, then you're good.
Well, that's a good question, because I think that, it kind of segues into something. I know we were talking about real quick about the high schools and moving on, definitely moving to different, a different scenario if they, need to, if that's the case may be, but in a different scene. It's just like I said, for that expectation of having that, there. How, being the fact that, like you said, you had some other, future, things that you might want to do as far as with that baseball and stuff like that. Can you do both? As far as not in the future, but I'm talking about now, like as far as like in high school. Shouldn't they? I mean, what's your take?
Honestly, I think kids should definitely not put all their they shouldn't put all their eggs in one basket. They should be able to tap into other sports, because you can learn different things from different sports.
Right.
Because it's like if you play soccer, you learn how to footwork and balance and stuff like that. Football, you're in the weight room all year. You learn how to get hit and different things with contact. And baseball, you got hand-eye coordination, so you can just learn everything from different sports. So I would just encourage players, just to not just focus on one sport, just try it. And if you don't like it, then you don't have to play it, but just try it.
Okay, and that's where I'm going to go to our next segment. What are college coaches really looking for? Tell me that when it comes to basketball. But I think we segregated a little bit on it. I've heard it before. They were looking into some other sports that they did as well. Sure. They were actually liking the fact that they
for sure
they were playing other sports.
So it's even some colleges now, like if they're recruiting you for basketball and you play football, they might come to see how you act or how you play in football and stuff like that. And so they just look at everything. But honestly, college coaches, they look at your academics, and then how much of a good student are you. You got the grades, you got the test scores and stuff like that. Then they look at your attitude, your character, your body language. How are you a good teammate? Do you defend? Are you selfish or are you unselfish? Just like that. Do you work hard? So they just look at everything. So I just wouldn't say they just hone down on one thing. You just have to be, just locked in on everything.
As far as BlueChips, tell me how soon, like how early would you work with, a youth, and then tell me a little bit about steering them in that.
So we have athletes, that we mentor from freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior. Nowadays these colleges, they start recruiting or they monitor you in 7th, 8th grade, but they can't talk to you. So 9th grade, I would say 9th, 10th grade is really whenever they start, tapping in, showing interest and stuff like that, sending you letters, following you on Twitter, come and watch you play in AAU live period and stuff like that. So I would just say freshman and sophomore is probably the earliest they really start honing down on the athletes and stuff like that.
Okay, so that's good. So tell me a little bit about the service when they come, advising both the parent and child, right?
Absolutely. So we mentor them. We just give them all the knowledge. What colleges look for. On the court and off the court. Making sure their academics is taken care of. Making sure they're at the right events. With the right programs. So they can get seen and exposure and different things of that nature. Reaching out to college coaches for them, evaluating their film, thinking, just kind of placing them where they should be able to play at.
So tell me a little bit about when you say reaching out to college coaches, because is there there's some rules with that, right?
No, for sure. There's definitely some rules. There's different periods throughout the year where colleges, they can't come and talk to you, or they can't talk to you, or they can't come and watch you and stuff like that. But right now, where we're in the summer, they're in the live period, so they're coming to watch like high school team shootouts, high school practices, AAU, things of that nature and stuff like that. So the summer is really where you can get recruited and stuff like that and get the confidence going into your high school season.
So, but can BlueChips though? Well, I'm not.
No, for sure.
As her parent during the season, I might not be able to.
So we can talk to the college coaches for you. We can kind of ask them what they want or what they're looking for and stuff like that, so we can help them place. We can help place the players to the coaches, and then we can help the coaches with the players and stuff like that in that nature. So we can talk to college coaches all year round.
Okay.
We're not athletes.
So
We're not
that's
athletes.
that's
We're
the
not
key,
athletes, for
right?
sure.
That's the key to having
sure.
that service, right? As far as and it matters, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Tell me a little bit about the social media as well. Like, do you all help with that? Like, these hype videos that I hear, talking about.
Absolutely. So our social platform, we get over like 500,000 views each month. Through Twitter, through Instagram, through Facebook. So that's really how much of our power comes from. So like we have an athlete, we post them on our Twitter, his highlights or his film or his stats. He might get 5 to 10 college followers just off of that, because we have a long list of following the college coaches on our platform. So that's what I'm saying. Like BlueChips, we really focus on just getting these athletes to the next level and giving them the exposure and the spotlight they deserve.
Real good question. What separates good players from recruitable players?
If you're willing to work hard and your attitude, so that's just the main thing. That's the main thing. Your attitude and do work hard.
Right. And I think a lot of you're hearing some of this too. Tell me how you feel about listening to some of the things he's saying.
You gotta I'm just listening, but I feel like becoming like a college, like me going into college now. I feel the work hard. You gotta work hard. You gotta want it because you're like at a job. It's not just you're not just going in to play around. I feel like getting exposure and going to college to the next level. You gotta want it. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Yeah, and I think
you gotta want it. You gotta work. It can't get handed to you. You gotta work towards what you want.
Real quick, what should the parents be doing? And I mean, if you say, if they they placing, getting the service or whatever, then what should they be doing on the back end of that?
So honestly, I would just say to parents, I would encourage them just uplift your kids, just speak life into them, just be there for them. You can be hard on them, but also give them some good stuff that they're doing, So I would just say that, just putting them in the right places, taking them to camps, college camps, elite camps, just putting them in the right places for them to be seen and stuff like that, and really just support them, I would just say really just support them and speak life into them, because that's what a lot of younger athletes need nowadays. It's just someone, that just believe in them.
Right. Real quick. So BlueChips Global, right? The crowd, the opportunities we talked about that they create. I get that. So tell me a little bit about this Interstate team shootout. Tell me a little bit about it.
Okay, yeah. So the Interstate Shootout is a high school shootout. We got a few teams.
When is it?
It's June 13th in Morgantown, West Virginia at Milan Park. We got we got 12 college coaches coming, to come evaluate and recruit. So that's good for the kids. We got a few sports media outlets coming to cover, interview, do highlights and stuff like that for the kids. So we got teams from like all over West Virginia. We got a few teams from Ohio, a few teams from Pennsylvania. So it's really just a great event for the kids to just get seen, and get the spotlight and the recognition they deserve.
Right. So tell me, as far as, so the competition, it does matter. Outside your region, it does matter, which when you play the AAU as well,
sure.
It does matter. It's a big deal. I know that you was in the AAU scene, you know how it is. It's probably, I wouldn't say it was really so much bad in my part. I've seen bad things, but I mean, I understand that it's needed. It just, tell me this though, I will want to ask you. So as far as with AAU regular season, why is there such a shift? It's weird. It's like, it's like a player that can go be outstanding AAU, they come back and kind of struggle sometimes when it comes to an organized or, not that AAU, but organized type of team. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I would just say kind of AAU is kind of more like freelance. You really don't have that much as pressure. That's what athletes, I would feel like they would say they don't have as much pressure. They kind of got a little bit more freedom. The coach believes in them a little bit more. So I would just say that. I wouldn't say it was probably just a challenge both in the AAU and high school, but they probably just have a little bit more freedom and confidence.
But for you, was it which one?
Honestly, I would think it was opposite for me. I think I was better in high school than the AAU, because the AAU, I think I was trying not to make too many mistakes. So I was moving like a robot.
Okay.
And I was trying to be a perfectionist in front of the college coaches and stuff like that. So I was kind of like a robot. I was trying not to make too many mistakes. I was trying to do the right play instead of just playing freely. So I just feel like that kind of held me back.
But if you could go back, that's one of the things you would tell yourself.
Absolutely. I would just say, in AAU, I would just say build your confidence, play freely, just play the game the right way, because that'll help you towards the high school season with the confidence, because you can get recruited and you can get your name off in the AAU, and then that can help forward you towards the high school season.
Right. And I believe that. I think, that's one of the things I think that the struggle, kind of comes is from that. It's from trying to get definitely your confidence. Because I see it, I see it. But it looks like the parents sometimes are more, than the other.
No, for sure. Sometimes you might have some parents, in the stands, trying to coach their kids, and that sometimes, kind of makes the player, kind of second guess itself, and now he's thinking, do I listen to my parents or do I listen to my coach? So that kind of puts him in an awkward position right there. So I would say that's a little bit of a problem in AAU, parents coaching from the stands.
Right. But then I go back to I'm not just, it ain't him I'm talking about. I'm going back to your father, or just, someone who's heavily invested. How do you can't just stop being invested. You know what I mean?
Sure.
When I talk to her, it would never be around people unless I was really upset. But it wouldn't even be the fact. It's just, like you just said, it's not, what your dad did when you was not doing right. You know what I mean? When he was just there loafing. That ain't got to do with scoring 1,000 points. It was just not giving the effort that I know that he knows it,
Sure.
Because like I said, he was going to mean until you start driving, he was going to drive you up there. Right? I mean, that's what I would tell her. I mean, it's not the fact of trying to, be the most outstanding, but just give your best, right?
Absolutely.
And that's, and she don't even know it, but it's times when she did her best that I was, more pleased than if she said, because scoring was one of the things that she still has to work on, but it's like, when she gave her max effort, and that was more than anything else to me. And also just getting it, and this is what I get into now, this segment, leadership beyond basketball. Because I just tell her right now, a lot of the things that I was doing for her, she was struggling at one point, right? And I had to get her away from that. She liked basketball. I didn't really like driving that much anymore, but so what? I'm going to have to suck it up and take her out of here to let her see other things, to help save her life. Let's get it right. Because, going down the wrong road. Leadership in basketball, tell me a little bit about those things. Accountability, discipline, time management. Tell me about that.
So those three aspects right there, they're really, really crucial to an athlete, just staying disciplined, separating yourself, being in the right crowds, not being in the wrong places at the wrong time. And then, just time management. You got to make sure you're in the gym, you got to make sure you're taking care of your body. You got to make sure you're taking care of your books, taking care of your mental, your spirit, all that. So all that, it ties in all into the same thing, just being a leader, just not, you don't have to be the same as everybody else. You can separate yourself. If you really want something, you gotta go chase. You gotta want it. Nobody else can do it for you. You gotta do it for yourself. So I would just say, just being disciplined and structure and time management.
Well, because you went to a couple different schools, was that hard then, even for yourself?
I would say, honestly, my freshman year when I went to New Mexico Military Institute, that was really a vital part of my life, because it taught me structure and time management and all that, accountability and all that, So we were on schedule and stuff like that. Every day we did the same thing, with the uniforms. You had to get up, you had to march, you had to do this. It was a basketball school, but you still had to do all these other different features throughout the day. And that just helped me, with the structure, with the time management and all that.
Weird question. Then or now? Did it help you then or now? You understand? Because
honestly, I would say both. At the time, I really kind of didn't understand it, but now, a few years later, that I see that it for sure helped me. But it definitely helped me then, whenever I was there.
Right.
With just everything, with time management, my homework, school, getting in the weight room, getting in the gym, and stuff like that. Because we couldn't leave campus there. So we had no choice but to be in the gym or in the books.
Right. So you had a question?
Yeah. What was your hardest part about being a college athlete?
Hardest part about being a college athlete? There's a few different things, like being away from your family, then, some days your body don't want to go to practice, don't want to do workouts. You don't want to go to class, so you just got to be strong-minded with that, and then the season, you know, it has its ups and downs. You know, you might have some injuries, and then you might try to come back. You down on the depth chart, you got to work your way up, so that might mess with you a little bit mentally and stuff like that. It's just a lot of things, but you need just strong minded, and just everything else will take care of itself.
Couple of quick questions before we move on from this one. You don't have to answer. Favorite coach?
My favorite coach. That's a good question. I would have to say probably Coach Schooley from New Mexico Military Institute or Coach Newsom, my AU coach from North Virginia Reign. I would say those two for sure because, you know, it's been 5-10 years later, they still reach out to me, you know, once a month, you know, or throughout each year, you know, so I just feel like that means a lot, the relationship part, you know, they're real close with my family, you know, they ask about my family, you know, they ask about my kids, so that it just means a lot to me.
Right,
sure.
right. Toughest lesson learned?
Toughest lesson learned. You're never bigger than the program. You're never bigger than the program, you know. Your talent can take you so far, but you gotta have the work ethic and the right mindset and the right attitude, you know, to get there.
See, and I think that's tough for high school, right? Because, and not saying they do, but you know how it is sometimes, especially locally, you know. And I just saw it not too long ago. I mean, there was some kids, you know, that, you know, average a lot of points, and then they get in this All-Star game, they can't even score. That's probably hard for them to, you know, kind of get. That's just a glimpse of it. To imagine, you know, how it will be, you know, and it is, like you said, for building yourself back up. A lot of different things, weight, a lot of different things like that. Blue Chip helped with those things as well prior to this.
Sure.
Prior to this, right? I mean, you know, but you have to be able to listen to them, right? Because let's get it right, not being funny, but you are the pros. Right? I mean, let's get it right. So and I'm not saying in a bad way, but I'm saying we need to listen as parent and as athlete to you know, steer you in the right direction. But it's not, sometimes it's not what I want to hear. Tell me how you handle that if you got to tell me.
So I would just say experience is the best teacher. That's what I always, you know, that's what the old head always told me. So that's what I always go by. So I would just say, you know, you really can't learn that unless you go through it. So, you know, just in all aspects of life, you know, throughout the season, you know, you might get injured and you might go down the depth chart. How you gonna bounce back from that? You know, a coach, he might not like you. He might be pushing you. You might not like how you gonna bounce back from that. You know, so it really just depends on how you gonna bounce back from things.
Tell me this. This might not be only a blue chip question, but it is something you just said about injury, right? Were you injured in college or something?
Yes, sir. So I suffered a few injuries in college, you know, so that kind of messes with your mental, you know, it messes with your body, so it just messes with everything. So it really just how you gonna bounce back from it. You gonna give up or you gonna go 10 times harder?
One of the things that it just came about, right? Tomorrow she's gonna have surgery, right, on her shoulder. So she hasn't really started yet. She's not, but bouncing back off of that because now kind of under the 8 ball, right? I mean, haven't started yet because you already said the first 2 weeks was tough as a freshman. Take her out of it. What are you telling an athlete about that as blue chips? What are you telling an athlete that number one now is hurt, but 2 is coming in as a freshman?
Yeah. So
Tell me a little bit
coming as a freshman, it's going to be a big wake up call because they're going to try to break you, you know, with the conditioning, you know, the workouts, the practices. So, you know, in high school, you might be the best player, you know, but then when you get to college, you were on a team where they were the best players on the high school. So you at the bottom of the totem pole. So what you going to do to separate yourself? So, you know, you gotta work hard. You gotta stay in the weight room. You gotta stay in the gym. You gotta stay in the books. You know, you just can't get down. You just gotta separate yourself because you never know when your time is going to come. It might not be in August, September, in the preseason. Your time might come in March, so you just got to stay down till you come up. So
tell me about, you know, injuries happen, right? You go down a little bit on total pole, but that's kind of like, you know, sometimes in high school, that's kind of how it is, just working yourself back up. I know some of your coaches did that as well, just not inserting you back in there, making you work, you know, and I think that's where you gain that at, right?
Sure.
For it. So tell me a little bit about as far as defense. Tell me how much focus is on defense in the college level.
That's one of the main things. If you can't defend it, you're not going to get on the court. You know, you don't want to get embarrassed. So, you know, you got to pick up full. You know, you got to dive for.
But I've never played.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure.
I've never played it.
Mm-hmm. So that's just something you gotta do. Is effort. It's effort and a mindset. You know, if you're not a defender, what you gonna do to get on the court? If you're a scorer and they already got 4 or 5 scores and you sitting on the bench, you're gonna figure out something to get on the court. So you're gonna either be a rebounder, you're gonna defend, you're gonna be the hustle guy, you got the glue guy. So it just depends if you want to sit on that bench or not. That bench will teach you a lot how to get on the court.
Right. So, tell me, but I average 30 at Woodrow right now. So what are you saying? I don't need to play no D.
So in college, everybody can play, and then in college, the game slows down. You know, you got sets. You know, some coaches, you know, they got a system. You got to run. You got to pass 4 or 5 times before you score. You know, you just can't come down and shoot a pull-up 3 off the break. You know, you got to be able to play within a system. You got to be disciplined. You know, structure. And that's what separates a lot of athletes that were good in high school and college. They get to college and they're not used to being in the structure. So they're just like, oh, it's not my way. So that's why they quit after 1 year or they transfer because they're not used to having it their way.
Right. Tell me this. All right, let's switch over. Some recruiting myths and some realities. Tell me a little bit about that. Do college coaches really watch social media?
Absolutely, for sure, 100%. They watch your social media. You know, they watch your friends' social media. You know, watch your family's social media. So they're just trying to get the whole rundown about you. You know, because they're investing in you. They don't want to bring someone in their program that they're spending, you know, scholarship money, NIL money on. So they just want to have the whole outlook. So they look at everything.
Tell me a little bit, some myths that you, from your past or policy, that really are, you know, that hurt people, you know, athletes the most.
So I would just say, like, even if it's a school that's recruiting you and you don't want to go to that school, still show them the same respect because you don't know where that school knows, you know, they might just be recruiting you, you know, to give you opportunity. Then this school sees, oh, they offered you, let me see what he's talking about. Then, you know, college coaches talk. So you don't want to have a bad reputation or, oh, I'm buried in the hand, blase.
And you know, I'm glad you said, you know, I'm glad you're here today because, you know, and I appreciate you being, I really do. Because you know what, I do believe that, I believe people have agendas. I do believe that. I'm sorry, I just believe they do. I mean, we know this from the ground up as far as people coaching teams. Just saying, sometimes their kids the only one shining. Well, he ain't even that good. But it gets even bigger. So higher stakes, the higher we go, right? So having someone like BlueChips, having someone like yourself, you know what I'm saying, Isaiah Francis coming in, you know, definitely to places like this, we need to know that, right? I mean, let's get it right. I don't know I've been, you know, the AU, but I don't know the ins and outs of that stuff like that. You know what I mean? So it's good to have you here because I do believe that some people don't have your best. I hate this, and I'm not saying college coaches by any means, but I'm saying definitely when we get some of these organizations, AAU, they don't have your best foot forward.
Yeah, for sure.
They got theirs, and they got their who they got, you know what I mean, and things. They got conversations, stuff like that. You can cut between that, right or wrong.
Right.
I mean, you can cut between. You can take some of that. I'm doing good in AAU, right, and turn it into something real nice, right. And that's the thing. So tell me how you all stay connected as far as with the AAU, not with the team, but definitely with, you know, the player and, you know, getting some of those highlights and things like that.
So I would just say, like, you know, with AAU, you know, that's whenever all the college coaches in the world, you know, they're going to these AAU tournaments to recruit. So they're coming to monitor you. So if you play good, you know, in AAU, they might offer you on the spot, or you play good at AAU, they're like, okay, I'm gonna write his name down. Now I'm gonna come watch him in the season, see how he plays in AAU. I might play in the high school season. So it's really just like a tryout and an audition. You know, you're promoting yourself.
So if I say, let's say I got Danya with me, we're up in Ohio, right? In some Ohio Wesleyan, you know, how's that or whatever, you know, make the mention. I got you in tow, BlueChips. I'll let you know that. You can continue that.
Absolutely. So it's, you know, kind of connect that bridge, you know. So I would just say, for example, so to say you guys were in Ohio, you know, Ohio Wesleyan reached out to you. So I would just encourage you to, like, follow them on their social media, you know, text the coach, email the coach, be like, Coach, thank you for coming to watch me play, you know, just showing that you're interested, you know, because that little things like that, you know, separates you from the other athletes, you know. So just following them back, you know, reaching out to them, showing them that you're interested, you know, apply for the school, you know, show them that you're serious about coming in.
See, it's weird you said, because I wouldn't even think,
for sure.
In business I would, but I wouldn't think to do it in, you know, in the realm of recruiting or anything like that. You know, I mean, I wouldn't know, you know, those things. So that's why it's good to have that, you know, to have you down. So Have you been down this area doing some of the things for Blue Chips?
No, not really. We're really trying to focus getting down here, because they're all up from up north central West Virginia. So that's where I moved to. I've been up there since September.
Okay.
I've been working town. So now where I'm from, Beckley in Southern West Virginia. That's going to be one of my priorities. To get Southern West Virginia kids recruited and give them more knowledge. And things of that nature.
Good. Tell me, before we move on. So that's going to be your focus a lot too.
For sure.
Is it? How's it doing up there? Yeah. Well, I know apparently doing up there because even though I didn't know Blue Chips, but I know a lot of kids from Fairmont get a lot, Morgantown get a lot, and other than the fact of them being in that area, there's got to be some other extensions.
For sure. So we got athletes, that we mentor, from Ohio, from Kentucky. So we're branching out. We got kids I got a kid from New York. I got a kid from Washington, California, who called and text me, that I help, reach out to schools for them, tell them what to do, reach out to these schools for them. So it's really just the power of the social media and the networking.
Right. But I think, with you saying that, and I know you love basketball, right? It's more than that.
Absolutely.
Because you're just saying these. Now they trusting in New York, these different places, and trusting in you to kind of, and not only that, like you said, for the confidence and like you said, the ups and downs, right? I think a lot of it is that, and I'm not a college athlete. I don't play because I didn't play, so I would want her to definitely get with someone, right? And talk about these things because it is going to be. You never, in life, I can tell her that. I don't have to play college to do that. You're going to be up, you'll be down. You know what I mean? It's trying to ride the way through that, as well. And I spoke about that a little bit a couple of weeks ago about that as well. Tell me this, another topic, mental health. That's what we're talking about, right? In athletics, kind of dealing with the pressure and the expectations. You were, like I said, from this high, had a lot of expectations. Do I believe you reached them? Yes, I do. But I'm not you. Tell me about it.
So, expectation, it take a big toll on you. I'm not gonna lie. Definitely when you've been in the spotlight ever since a kid, you can't do certain things that other kids do because of, your name holds so much weight, from adults to kids, they recognize you, so you can't go to certain places, you can't do certain things. So, you just gotta hold yourself accountable. So I would just say, just focus on yourself, focus on bettering yourself, having a strong mental state, I would just say encourage, to stay down, with the Lord, staying faithful, pray, read books, keep your mind healthy, just things of that nature to keep your mind strong and your spirit strong.
Yeah,
yeah, this is like outside of sports, but what are you most proud of, outside of sports?
Most proud of outside of sports? I would say God blessed me with 2 kids, my son and my daughter, because, kids, they change your mindset and they bring you joy. So,
right.
I'm just super thankful for them because they changed my life. They made me look at life different. I'm not thinking for myself now, I'm thinking for my 2 kids. So anything I do, I got to think, oh, I got 2 kids, is it going to be the right decision for them? How is it going to make them look? How is it going to make me look? So, just like my mom always tell me, you're not the only one with the last name Francis, so if I do something, it's going to influence the whole family. So I would just say that.
100%. Going back to college, Isaiah, then balancing sports, school, and your personal life. I'm just saying, as far as for that collegiate person needing the athlete needing that. Tell me a little bit about that balance. So
you definitely have to balance it, but you also have to invest in each 3 of those features. You gotta invest in your personal life a little bit. You gotta invest in your family. You gotta make sure you spend time with them. Talk to them on the phone. Have them speak life into you. And then the books part, the academic part. You gotta go to the library. You gotta get your homework on time. Go talk to your professors and your teachers. The athletic part. You gotta be able to talk. You gotta talk to your coach. Go ask him what is it something I could work on. Sometimes you don't want to, but you gotta play the game. What can I work on? What am I doing wrong that I can do better?
Stay there real quick for me. Tell me about what you just said, because you said a lot of when you said I was hurt. Now I'm back down on the depth chart. I'm gonna feel a certain kind of way, but now I got to go talk to the person that put me down on the depth chart.
No, for sure.
How we do?
No, for sure. So in college, college coaches, you can't get on their bad side. You don't want to get on their bad side, because if you get on their bad side, it's hard to get off their bad side. So you just gotta have a good relationship with them. You gotta humble yourself sometimes. Sometimes whenever they're in the coach office, you go in the gym, shoot 500 shots, see that, you let them see that you're okay. He's working, okay. You go in, between classes, go in the office, talk to him, ask him how his day going, just talking to him. So just have a relationship with him on that level, and in practice, dive on the loose ball, you practice hard, talk on defense, just be active, be, proactive, and just things of that nature. So just really just playing the part so they can see that you're okay, he's invested, he's different.
Staying on mental health in the athlete, in the athletics. Tell me this though, you doing that, Isaiah, but you have a couple bad performances. What about the confidence? What do we do?
So I would just say, God, he always, tests you before he bless you. So if you can get through the rocky parts, and the sun always comes out after the rain. So you might have 3 or 4 bad games, but it's a learning experience. So it's different from high school. You got bigger, stronger, faster guards, and you got taller people. You got 7-foot centers and 6'10" wings. Guard you. So it just you just can't get down. You just gotta you miss all the shots you don't take. So you just gotta leave the past in the past and just look forward to the next one.
Right. I'm glad you said that. And you're right. It is. I mean, one of those things we talk about. Tell me this when we switch over, and this is what you're here for. Like I said before, we talked about, definitely your career. We talked about those things, but there is a business side to sports, and this is what we're doing here. And that's why I said, tell me a little bit about, the sports management careers, different things like that. And I know with scouting and recruiting, that's what you're here doing. I mean, for those things in marketing and branding. Tell me a little bit about that.
So, all those things are major too, just with the business aspect part of it, and, just the whole coaching carousel and just the basketball world. So it's just like, I tell you a funny story. Whenever I was a sophomore in JUCO, a D1 coach was recruiting me. He called a high school coach that I played in high school from Charleston to ask about me, how was his character, how was he on the court, how was his body language, how was his talent. So he didn't even call my actual high school coach. He called a high school coach that I played against. So it's just crazy that you were saying, just staying, having a good reputation, because you never know who they're going to call. They might call, someone in your neighborhood, one of your neighbors. Like college coaches, they just want to get the whole rundown. So it's just, you got to know how to maneuver. You got to be a good person. You got to have good character, have a good attitude. You never know who's watching, who's around.
We just had a show where we talked about an interview, and it was, interview skills, and it was one of those where I had been incarcerated. I'm just saying, the scenario was I've been incarcerated. What do I tell them about this gap in between, right? Tell me about a player that has had some hiccups in their past. How do they move forward when they come in and present themselves to a college, per se?
So I would just say, just showing them that you're making improvement, that you're leaving the past in the past, that you might have made a mistake, but you learned from your mistake, and that mistake made you stronger and it made you more wiser, things of that nature. So, I would just say, being honest with them about the situation, tell them that, I made a mistake. I learned from it, and now I'm moving on from it, and I'm stronger because of that mistake. That maybe if I didn't make that mistake, I would get all the way to the top of the mountain, and then I wouldn't know how the bottom feels because I never made a mistake. So I would just say, you just learning and bouncing back from a mistake, and then you just not living on it or just being down on it, just bouncing back from it.
Just you sitting here, man. I got 1,000 questions, but I'm trying to channel, because you just never get to sit down. Right? Look, number one, we see college athletes all the time, but to sit down with them and get the ins and out. But this is your job to do now, and it's like that's got to be a great feeling. To have that. So before we stop, tell me this: today's athlete, what do they need most? Tell me a little bit about that.
So an athlete, they just need to have the right mindset, strong mindset, the right attitude. You got to have the right crowd and the right environment around you. You got to be able to, take a chance on yourself. You got to believe in yourself before anybody else can believe in yourself. So I would just say, reps remove doubt. So just staying in the gym, staying down, staying in the weight room, because that builds confidence. Because if you're not in the gym in the summer, and then when when prime time comes, you ain't working, then the work is gonna show. It's gonna show.
Right.
So I would just say, just staying down with the right mindset, the right work ethic, the right attitude, just the right environment, things of that nature, and just always staying humble. You never know when your time is gonna come.
Now, real quick, there were some questions I had with that. Listen, the way you answered it, listen to this. Discipline was the first one. You covered that. Accountability was the next one. Consistency was another one. Also resilience and also faith. You covered all those. So that's the thing. Sometimes I feel that, positions can be created for you or positions can be made for you, right? Which one is it for you? The position that you're in now.
I just feel like with my basketball journey and everything I went through, I just feel like God, he led me to this place for the right reason. I just feel like this is my true calling, because experience is the best teacher. I went to several different schools. I've been in college in New Mexico, Oklahoma, Kentucky, went to prep school in Tennessee. So just being able to be in all these different environments and learning different things, I can now help the younger generation because I've been there and I've been through it. So I just feel like that's my calling, just, to help the next generation, achieve their dreams and continue playing.
Right, and I think it's a good thing. I mean, I think, because we need to hear that, right? I mean, and we're in a day and age now where it's like, and you know how it is. This is more about, man, I'm not attacking rap, but it's more about, reality type things.
Sure.
Not so much just what you're speaking about, like real rap and stuff like that. I'm not getting on it, but I'm just saying, living it more than anything, and that's the thing. I believe that you can, what you're doing, you can, definitely help others through your experience. You don't have to get in depth, but still to know, hey, I went down this road, I went down that road. Same thing I do as far as that, but definitely you're younger than me. So they're going to listen to you. They're going to resonate with you. I mean, look, I don't have it here. You know what I mean? That type of thing. Yeah, sure. I mean, and which that was a thing in the past about how, man, I don't just come out there ready to roll. That's what I said. But I get it in a job world though, having, your hair neat or whatever it may be. When neat to me is just edge stuff. It ain't got nothing to do with the top of it. But those are just some of the things, that I know that your dad instilled in you, right? And those are the things I think, when you see, children grow up and then they, like I said, they might stump their toe or whoever, just like I say with her as well. I only bring it up sometimes with her, not to shun her or nothing like that. You can rise up from these things, right? You can go on and go further because there's somebody out there who feel that they can't now because they've made a mistake or whatever. But no, that's a lie. That's not true. You know what I mean? And you're living proof of it, just the same. And what I mean by yours, 7 different schools, that's a lot of confidence. I mean, I'm just saying, that's a lot of, sometimes that's hard, I mean, we hear about, but what we don't understand is these NBA players, a lot of them went to a whole bunch of schools when they were in high school and in college as well. I mean, really. So it's like in that determination. Tell me a little bit before we quit, a little bit about your pro experience. Tell me a little bit about it.
So, I played in the ABA Next Level League. We played some teams from like Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, DC, Fredericksburg, Virginia, and stuff like that. So it was a good learning experience, stuff like that. Good talent, former D1 guys, former overseas guys. I had a pretty good season. I had some overseas overseas opportunities and contracts that I could have went and played, but I just feel like God led me to this calling with BlueChips, helping the younger generation. So I'm more at peace at that, So
you said you had some success. I see you had averaged like a whole bunch of points. Right, but you said you was going against D1 athletes, but that's the thing. It's a lot of basketballs is in here, absolutely. Right or wrong, no matter what. I mean, that goes back, which I know. I mean, I guess your era was last, but you know a little bit about street ball, right? Mm-hmm. But I mean, I don't know how much y'all play. You know what I mean? Sure. But they don't play at all. But you know what I mean? But that's the thing. I mean, that's where you get it at. You know what I mean? Let's get it right. I mean, you get it. I mean, you have to, or you gonna sit down. You gonna sit down. Sure. It's 100 people up there. Sure. You gotta mean, but that's where you learn that grit, that grind. You know what I mean? Like you said, well, shoot, we all 3 out there. Who can shoot the best? He can. So they let him do that. We go in and grind. That's where we learn it. Absolutely. We're not doing it a lot anymore. We're not doing it like 32, 21. You know what I mean? Remember the bucket. Like you can't just sit around and chill out. Yeah, you're gonna sit down. If you don't get to put, I believe just having that grittiness and like everybody, like I said, everybody ain't like that, but a lot of people are, and that's one of the things, that I see. It was one, I was going to tell you this before we got off here, I've been officiating for years, and so I've seen a lot of basketball. I've seen a lot of basketball plays. But sometimes the human and you come out in it, and it was him. One time, I'll never forget, he was a great Beckley, man. I think they were playing St. Albans. It was a preseason game. And, man, I remember, and I couldn't believe it, because I knew he could jump, but I just didn't think he would do that. I didn't think, he dunked on his kid, hard, and never made it really an expression, but that's what I said. I was like, goodness gracious. But you don't hardly ever see, things around here. You don't always see that, really. But this is the, the talent that you had, you harnessed it, to a pro career. I think that's a great thing. I think, a lot of times, people always, but I'm not, this ain't this show here, what we talk about, it ain't focusing on none of that stuff. We focus on the positive things, right? And showing people come up, right? And that's what I said. So that's why I said having you on here, super excited, but it always shows, like I said before, sometimes your upbringing, right? Sometimes your upbringing, sometimes we say we only focus on the negative ones sometimes, but we can focus on those positive ones. It's more positive, negative anyway, right? And the offspring, like I said, once we bump our head, me included, then you can come around and say, shoot, I got to save landing spot because somebody made it for me. And I think that's a great thing as well. I want to thank you. And so tell me a little bit about your event before you go.
So yes, next weekend, June 13th, Morgantown, West Virginia, at Milan Park, we'll have 15 high school teams from all over West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Ohio. We got 15 college coaches coming. We got multiple sports and media outlets coming. So it's going to be a good event for high school kids, to get recruited, get the spotlight, and the recognition that they deserve, to try to get to the next level.
And please, let us know, let the area know when you're having some more of these, because I think it's one of those things where how it is. Unless you hear, because we hear a lot of things, but then we don't hear about the important things that we need to hear about. Stay locked in with us. Like I said before, we do support you. Like I said before, I do want to talk to you off air. I do believe we're missing out with the girls, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I do believe in a big way. In a big way, I really do believe that. I know the boys, getting it, but I think there's some great girls around here too, and also some infrastructure that need to be made on the lower level in order to get them to build them up as well. So we'll talk about that as well. I want to thank everybody for listening in on the Collective Konversations. Like I said before, it's been super great. We do have an event coming up, TSK Pathways Prevention to Literacy in Life, and that's coming up on June the 20th. It'll be over at 100 Washington Avenue. It'll be a cookout, hot dog and barbecue cookout. We'll be rolling out our new program where we, recently was, awarded a $50,000 grant for opioid prevention. So I want to thank, the city of Beckley for that. And I want, we just want to, try to do a lot of good things around here in the area. Like I said, for people like Danya, Isaiah, we got a good future coming up. So, we just got to show them that, we have to give back and serve. It's one of the things we have to do. So I want to thank you all. Like I said, we mentioned June 20th again at 12 to 2. It'll be 12 to 2 over at East Park, the Multicultural Center.